The third day of the Critérium du Dauphiné today circumnavigates the beautiful French region of the Ardèche, searching out 6 tough climbs to challenge the main field and test the strength of the new leader, Bradley Wiggins, and his team, Sky. Yesterday, Cadel Evans showed that he's on track for the Tour de France in July. The Aussie attacked in the finale and sprinted to a stage win, seconds in front of a charging peloton. His biggest challenger come July, Bradley Wiggins, was in that group and took over the yellow jersey as race leader. The odd man out was Andy Schleck, who was dropped on the final third category climb of the day. Big questions now surround the Luxembourger, whose quest to win this year's Tour is in doubt. It doesn't let up today as the riders face 5 more challenging mountains. Stage 2 is next. Welcome to the Epic Cycle Series presented by Michelob Ultra. Today we're only 15 miles separating the start town from the finish town, but there's more than 10,000 feet of climbing to get there. It's stage 2 of the Critérium du Dauphiné, from Lamastre all the way to Saint-Félicien. I'm Paul Sherwin, alongside me is Bob Roll. Yesterday we saw a great battle between 2 Tour de France favourites, Cadel Evans winning the stage, Bradley Wiggins taking the yellow jersey, but he didn't seem too happy afterwards.
He did not seem happy about it. The time trial is a discipline where every conceivable aerodynamic advantage is coveted, especially the one-piece skin suit. He does not want to wear the one provided by the race organizers, even though it is the leader's yellow jersey. He wants to wear his own that's developed with his team to be absolutely perfect in aerodynamic time trialing conditions.
Yeah, well, look at these time gaps. They're not very much at all, are they? Cadel Evans in second place at 1 second. Andre Grifko in third. But today, Bob, it's all about the climbing, isn't it?
We got a humdinger of a stage 6 categorized climbs out on the race course, including a big category 2, a number of category 4s, 3 cat 2s in total, and a category 4 to finish off the stage in Saint-Félicien. It's 160 clicks, all in the hills, no flat roads whatsoever, just under 100 miles of very tough racing.
It's going to be a hard day in the saddle for everybody this afternoon, and we join the race here, Bob, at 40 kilometres to go, 25 miles of racing. This is the leading group of 4 riders who escaped after just 25 miles of racing. Bill Kadri is the rider in there for AG2R in the white jersey. Young Colombian rider Jose Sarmiento in there for Liquigas in the lime green jersey at the back. Christopher Kern in the green jersey for Europe Car at the front, setting the pacemaking. And the enigmatic rider in the red jersey, David Moncoutier of Cofidis.
Moncoutier, a great climber. He's already won 4 titles of climbing in the Tour of Spain in his career.
No, he certainly has. We're looking now at the main field. They're about 1.25 minutes behind. This has been a day of climbing. Bill Kadri has been the first rider over the top of every climb so far, as we see Saur Sojourn, Bob here, trying to get themselves a little bit of an acceleration off the front.
A couple of French riders from French teams, it looks like. FDJ, Saur Sojourn, both of these teams invited to the Tour de France starting June 30th. Sky has done an incredible amount of work, so Bradley Wiggins maybe giving the jersey over to somebody else so he can wear his skin suit has not really materialized so far on the stage. Sky has controlled the proceedings throughout. With 40 kilometers to go, just under 25 miles of racing, the gap is only 1 minute and 13 seconds. Virtually impossible for the break to stay away. Sky has been under complete control of the race throughout today's stage.
Yeah, well, those 2 riders trying to get across there, in fact, were Bryce Fellou, a very good climber from France, and he's joined by Rémi Poriol of Française des Jeux. Bob, this has been a very difficult race since the very start. Looks like Thomas Voeckler as well getting himself into the action in the green jersey there as we rejoin the leaders. You're right, Bob, they were never given more than a 3-minute 45-second advantage. This has been a tough stage so far.
Very tough stage so far. It's good to see Bryce Fellou back on the attacks. He's trying to get across to this breakaway here, and he was a winner of a stage of the Tour de France in Arcalès up there in the Andorran Mountains. A great ride by Fellou.
Well, that was just 2009 he got that victory, and he's a very good climber. Strange, you've got two brothers. One is a very good climber. That's Bryce Filiou, the tall rider there, just sitting in second position. But his brother, on the other hand, slightly smaller built, is a great sprinter.
That would be Romain Filiou, and he mixed it up in the Tour de France against Mark Cavendish. Didn't quite get a stage win, but he'll be back in the Tour, presumably looking for stages for his team, Sauer Sojason.
Well, this is the big sprint up to the top of the climb here, and obviously the man trying to get maximum points again is Biel Kadri in the white jersey. Now, with first place over the top here, he will actually now assume the lead of the King of the Mountains classification at the end of the day, which he'll take away from Giovanni Bernardo, who was the leader yesterday.
Big battle there between Christophe Caron and Biel Kadri for the King of the Mountain points. Biel Kadri's dominated those proceedings throughout today's stage. Christophe Caron back up to the front of the peloton. He was a stage winner here at the Dauphiné last year.
Well, this is the deuxième group, the second group. They poursuivent the chasers. Interesting to note that Thomas Voeckler is looking for the move here this afternoon. By the way, this has been a day of abandon so far, Bob, because a lot of the riders involved in those crashes yesterday have actually pulled out of the race. Perit Federigo pulled out. Lidgaard, the Dutch national champion, he abandoned. And also, JJ Hayedo has pulled out. Probably the biggest name, Sammy Sanchez, the outgoing Olympic champion. He was in pieces yesterday.
He had a really hard crash early in the stage. He was able to finish. He was 23+ minutes behind the stage winner, Cadel Evans, but he was complaining of sore ribs throughout the rest of the evening. They took x-rays. They didn't find them to be broken, but he's going back to Spain to recuperate from a very tough crash and put him out of the Dauphiné. One has to wonder how that preparation is going to affect him for the Tour de France a little bit later in the summer.
I'll tell you what, Bob, this is a beautiful part of France, the Ardèche, but it's not an easy part of France to race through at all, is it? It's very difficult. There's not been one part of the course today has been flat for these riders. A total amount of climbing on the day for the riders. They're facing up to 9,800 feet of climbing. That's got to hurt the legs.
That will definitely hurt the legs. 9,000+ feet of climbing throughout the day. Not even on a mountain stage. This is a medium mountain stage with a lot of rolling climbs, very few kilometers of flat roads where the peloton can establish its inertia, and you can sit in the field on a flatter stage and conserve strength. That will not be the case on today's stage. All up or down, lots of twists and turns, very technical roads as well. We'll see how that plays out. It's going to be a tough stage, and the gap now just 38 seconds to the breakaway with 37 kilometers to go. Virtually impossible to stay away.
Well, as they say in France, Bob, but ooh la la, look at the speed of this main field. They're trying to pull this whole race back together. I just noticed the neutral service vehicle has been pulled out. This is the leading breakaway at 4 right. Look at the speed on this very, very technical descent. But to me, what I'm thinking about, Bob, is all about the final climb of the day, because the final climb of the day, after the 5 climbs we've had so far, it's a 2.5 kilometer ascent up to the finishing line. And there, I think we will see, again, a big battle between the names who we are expecting to see do battle in the Tour de France in July. Cadel Evans for one, Bradley Wiggins another, and of course, let's not forget, can Andy Schleck ride himself back into form? We're back with the action in the very heart of the Ardèche, and of course a bit surprising for me to see, Bob, Team Sky controlling the front end of the main field, despite after what Bradley Wiggins had said yesterday, I'm not sure I want to keep this yellow jersey. Obviously, he's trying to. Well, he's got the yellow jersey. He's fifth wheel there in that long line of riders. Overnight, perhaps, Sean Yates, the team manager, explained to the team it's better to keep the yellow jersey. You do not want to give away seconds to anybody. It's very dangerous in professional cycling. All of the riders in this race capable of winning overall, so you don't want a group to get away and have too much time. Better to control the proceedings when you can. Well, certainly, I have to say, Bob, we talked about a lot of riders who'd abandoned the race so far from that crash of yesterday, but one man who's managed to stay in the bike race is Dan Martin. Take us through this crash. Jumping over the traffic circle there, when you're in the air, it's hard to change direction, and he plows right into Simons Gerrans there and into the curb. Also taken out in that crash is Pim Leekart, the champion of Holland. Well, this is what his injuries looked like this morning, and this was the Twitter that he put out to the world, and they took the time to apologise to Simon Gerrans for taking out the Australian champion. Bob, you've got to be a man to be a bike rider and go through a stage, especially with a stage like today. Well, his back absolutely shredded. It makes it virtually impossible to get a good night's sleep, because every time you roll over in your blankets, your wounds touch the sheets or the bed on either side, and it's all impossible. And bike racing, all about recuperation. And you have to have a good night's rest every night to be competitive throughout a stage.
very tough stage like today. If it was a flat stage for the sprinters, you could expect Dan Martin to hang in there without too much trouble, but on a mountainous stage like today, it's going to be a very tough day for Dan Martin. He's hoping to be selected for the first time in his life to the Tour de France starting June 30th. That might be in jeopardy because of that big crash yesterday.
And that's why he's trying to stay in the bike race, to nurse himself through. Tomorrow's an easier day. He could survive tomorrow, and then he can start to build when we get down to the very big mountainous final 3 days. In the white jersey there, you might have noticed Bosenhagen. He's the best young rider in this competition so far. Not even thinking about his own ambitions in this year's Critérium du Dauphiné or even the Tour de France, Bob. He's already said, I will not ride for myself. We're all riding for Bradley Wiggins. The little rider there, by the way, in the lime green jersey of Liquigas candidate, he's a Colombian rider on that squad. And in fact, a couple of years ago, in 2009, he won what we call the Baby Giro.
A part of the new generation of Colombian riders, along with Rigoberto Urán, Sergio Henao, both of the Sky team, not here. They just finished the Giro. John Adapuma, Fabio Duarte, who we saw at the Amgen Tour of California. They follow a very prestigious group of riders: Luis Herrera, Jose Patrocinio Jimenez, Fabio Parra, all big stars of the Tour de France in years past. But this great new generation of Colombian riders, they'll be in the headlines for a long way to go. And it's great to see Jose Sarmiento from the Liquigas Italian squad in the breakaway on today's stage.
Not by very much, though, because 31 kilometers to go is 19 miles of racing their advantage, just hovering about half a minute. Bob, give us a chance to really talk about the surface of the road in this part of the world as well, because you can see, because of the heat in the southern part of France, the road is already starting to melt a little bit, and that makes it tricky around these dangerous descents.
Well, here in the Ardèche, they use a technique called chip and seal. They lay down a thin layer of tar and then cover that with gravel. It's nice for maintaining the roads, these small roads that don't get a lot of traffic, but however, for a bike race, it makes for a long, tough day in the saddle. It's much nicer to have nice, smooth blacktop or even better concrete pavement, but they don't use that very often in these more neglected parts of France. But it's great to have the bike races here. Perfect roads for riding. For racing, that chip and seal makes for a very tough condition to race on.
Well, in fact, there's a very well-known cyclo-sportif mass participation ride in this part of the world. They get up to 15,000 participants. It's not a race, it's a fun participation, but can't be that much fun, can it, on a surface like this?
Well, if you're with your buddies and you're in really good shape, you could do the Ardèchois. It's a very tough cyclo-sportif, or Grand Fondo down in Italy.
Well, we just saw Mickey Rogers going through there, doing a lot of pacemaking. This is Thomas Vogel coming up to the front here, taking out his earpiece, having a quick chat there with Bradley Wiggins. I wonder what that's all about. Because in fact, Bradley Wiggins and Team Sky have just chased down a breakaway by Thomas Vogler, and again gives us a chance also to take a break. Tomorrow, the Epic Cycle Series presented by Michelob Ultra continues with Stage 3 of the Critérium du Dauphiné, maybe the flattest stage of the race. Tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern on the NBC Sports Network. Back with the action here, though, and Team Sky are doing a sterling job on the front end of the main field. Just a quick look there, 2.2 kilometers to go to the summit. This is the penultimate climb of the day. Bob, I wonder if they can survive, because on the right-hand side there, you can just notice Biel Kadri, and he's the man who so far today has taken maximum points through the whole of today's stage.
For the King of the Mountain competition, Kadri and Cairn, the man in the green jersey, dark green, is Christophe Cairn. They've had a pretty heated battle for all the King of the Mountain points out on the race course. Biel Kadri's been able to get the better of him. Second to the last climb, there is a climb up to the finish line, another category 4 out on the race course, but that man from AG2R, who actually broke his shoulder earlier this spring in Paris-Nice, he had to take a couple of months off, a very dramatic crash for Biel Kadri earlier this year in Paris-Nice. Good to see him out on the open roads, having some success on today's stage.
Yes, all the big climbs in the early part of the race, Bob. This is a 4th category climb. The final climb of the day has also been given a 4th category as well. It's 2.5 kilometers uphill. This is the man who led the King of the Mountains this morning, Giovanni Bernardo, the son of Jean-René Bernardo. Bernardo himself this morning, Bob, was saying he was very, very happy to see his son racing like this, but he said, and I suppose only a father can say, that he needs to have a little bit more self-confidence to go to the next step.
To take the big step in cycling, it's one thing to be in the peloton, it's another thing to dictate the results in professional cycling. plenty of fodder in the field, but very few big superstars. Maybe Giovanni Bernardo will be a future star of French cycling. They have plenty of them right now, though.
And this is one of them here. That was David Moncoutier. They're 4 times a winner of the King of the Mountains in the Vuelta a España. This year, Bob, strange for a Frenchman, says he doesn't want to ride the Tour de France. He prefers the Tour of Spain.
Well, Moncoutier unique in that he prefers other stage races, the Giro d'Italia and the Vuelta a España, outside of his native France. The Tour de France, of course, the biggest 3-week bike race in the world.
All right, this is Wesley Sulzberger now. Now, this is a little interesting move from Orica Green Edge. Now, they are looking for some success in this bike race here this afternoon, Bob. Look at this move over on the left-hand side there. Sulzberger, a couple of years ago, 6th overall in the Santos Tour Down Under. They've said they've not come to win this bike race overall. What they're looking for is stage victories. And what a stage today for a stage victory with this 2 little 4th category climbs on the last 40 kilometers.
Well, Simon Gerrans has a great chance to win the stage. He's the teammate of Wesley Sulzberger, the man in the green and black jersey. Sulzberger going off on an attack. What that's going to do is make the peloton chase. When the peloton is chasing, his teammate can sit on the wheels, conserve his strength for the finish. Simon Gerrans, this is a perfect course for him. We've seen him successful on this on a number of occasions. And this is similar to Milano-San Remo, the one-day classic in Italy that Simon Gerrans won this year.
Alexander Vinokourov now. What's going on here? Number 21. Is it just going back to the team car to help out the rest of the lads here this afternoon? Because it's not like Alexander Vinokourov to get dropped off. I'm a little surprised here, Bob, to see at 22 kilometers to go, 13 miles of racing, these 4 guys are still surviving.
They're still surviving. A slim margin, 38 seconds, 12 and a half, 13 miles left in the race. Vinokourov going back to get some bottles. I'm not sure if those are for himself or for his teammates. Generally, he is considered the leader of the team, but playing the domestic role at this part of the stage, having no trouble to go through the field here on a climb. Impressive riding there by Vinokourov.
No, absolutely, Bob. But I think we're talking about, let's talk about the final climb there. We're looking here at 500 meters to go to the penultimate climb, but the final 2.5 kilometers is the last climb of the day. And if you watch the Santos Tour Down Under on NBC Sports Network, you will have seen Old Wollonga Hill. Well, it's just like Old Wollonga Hill in Australia.
Won by Alejandro Valverde, but second on that stage was Simon Gerrans, who went out the overall winner of the Tour Down Under, and that's a new team, Orica Green Edge, and both Sulzberger and Gerrans riding for that new Australian squad.
Yes, well, the Michelob Ultra Athlete profile today is going to be the man who, in fact, broke his shoulder in the early part of the year in Paris-Nice, and today he will be the King of the Mountains. Great climber.
Good climber. AG2R bringing a solid squad here, trying to do something in preparation for the Tour de France. That's the big rendezvous for all the French teams on the season. And Biel Kadri, a little bit of honor for the squad. It's always great to have any of the jerseys in these big stage races.
Well, he's the man there in the white jersey, and every time we've come to the top of one of these climbs, he's been challenged by the man in the green jersey, Kerner. Now, he's not going to get past him on this occasion. Now, that's a strange one.
Christophe Caron showing a little bit of strength there that he hadn't shown throughout the climbs leading up to that one. Christophe Caron won a stage here in the Dauphiné last year, and it augured well for his chances in the Tour de France, but he crashed out on stage number 5.
Oh, Wesley Sulzberger now. He's trying to ride across this gap, but Bob, look at the time gap, because the leading group of 4 riders now are starting to stretch out once again. It's now 40 seconds.
Well, that's the field. I'm sure this group is a little bit closer than that, being joined by a number of strong riders. Looks like Steve Moravito in the red and black of the BMC squad trying to get across, and here's the peloton going through the top of that climb.
Yes, but look at that long line of riders at the front, Bob. That's the indication the hammer is down here this afternoon. To put it into perspective, by the way, we normally expect an average speed of about 26 or 27 miles an hour. The third hour of racing here this afternoon was 19 miles an hour. What does that tell you?
Well, all you have to do is look at the profile of the stage, looking like the teeth of a saw there. You had a Cat 2 with 95 kilometers, a Cat 3 just after that, another Cat 2, the Col de la Louvre-Sec, and those are all very tough climbs. Not very famous, perhaps, but not very easy either.
This is Anthony Roux. He's a rider just 24 years of age from FDJ, and he's trying to get across to Wesley Sulzberger. Sorry about that little caption error there, but this, in fact, definitely is Anthony Roux. You can see how technical these roads are, hard roads for racing. Bob, I wonder how anybody's going to survive the whole of this week of racing, because we've got big names. We've got Cadel Evans, we've got Bradley Wiggins, question mark. In fact, Johan Brunel almost backpedaling a little bit, saying, I never said Andy Schleck was not going to the Tour de France. He was always going to go, but the only man guaranteed of a place in the Tour squad for Nissan Trek, of course, is Fabian Cancellara.
Well, a lot of words back and forth from the Radio Shack camp. It's nice to see Johan Brunel motivating his riders. Maybe using the press to do that is not the best idea of things, but Johan Brunel explaining something has to be done. The team needs results. We should have been regular winners throughout the season, and apart from Fabian Cancellara, we haven't seen that. So far, Johan is disappointed, but they can start to make up for that now.
Well, as we look there at the little move coming off the front by Wesley Sulzberger, 4 riders hoping to survive. We'll take a break. Well, looking at the speed here, we could almost be in an IndyCar, I reckon, this afternoon, Bob, because we're now inside of 14 kilometres to go, and it's still, these 4 guys are still hanging on to about a half a minute advantage. They can't really survive.
They've been in the breakaway throughout the stage. Sky has been doing all the tempo to defend the race lead of Bradley Wiggins, but these 4 men have put a special ride in today. The gap now just under 30 seconds. Don't think they'll stay away, but courageous riding by the 4 men in the breakaway.
Well, I tell you what, it's also very difficult, I reckon, to predict a winner for today's stage, because we're talking again about this final climb of the day, 2.5 kilometres. It really is a tough climb. There's a lot of guys, a lot of punchers who could come out of the gap on a race like this here this afternoon. And of course, we'd forgotten about old Anthony Roux. Poor old Anthony Roux, he's halfway across the gap. He's never quite made it.
It's called no man's land in between the chasing peloton and the breakaway. Anthony Roux had a very prestigious stage win in the Tour of Spain, one of the 3 crown jewels of cycling, one of the other grand tours of Vuelta a España.
Well, it's interesting to notice Sojas on the front end of the main field, because this morning Jérôme Coppel, who was in the breakaway on the run down towards the finish yesterday, I'm not going to attack today, I'm going to take a back seat and wait for the big mountains at the weekend. Well, that, Bob, tells me that maybe he thinks today's finish suits him.
Well, Jérôme Coppel, another one of the upcoming French stars of cycling, 13th in last year's Tour de France, decent climber, very good time trialist. He's hoping to replicate the career of Bradley Wiggins and make a steady ascension in the ranks of cycling, looking for a top 10 in the Tour de France later this summer. That's the leader of the Sauer team, and they're chasing very hard right now. That's good news for the Sky team. They can take a back seat, just protect Bradley Wiggins for the rest of the stage, and that's good news if you've been chasing throughout the day to get a little bit of help from a different team.
Yeah, I haven't spotted Cadel Evans yet this afternoon, Bob. He will be wearing the green jersey as the leader of the points competition. He's just a couple of points ahead, in fact, of Jérôme Coppel in that competition. So maybe Cadel will be a little bit more prominent. I've noticed the yellow jersey. Another good name. There he is on the far side, that lime green jersey. That's Cadel Evans, and he's always got a couple of teammates around him to protect him.
George Hincapie on the wheel of Cadel Evans, just keeping an eye on things for the rest of the stage. Almost 7 miles to go now. Sauer putting in a hard chase, looking for some glory on today's stage. Good to see the French teams mixing it. There'll be 4 in the Tour de France: Cofidis, Sauer, FDJ, Europcar. All of the French teams represented in the breakaway currently in this situation. The only one not is Sauer, and they're chasing.
Well, they've got the hammer down here this afternoon. Cadel Evans, he might like this kind of a finish, an explosive finish, but maybe his own teammate, Philippe Gilbert, the champion of Belgium, might try his legs out this afternoon, because it's definitely, for me, well, 12 months ago, a Philippe Gilbert finish.
Oh, a no-brainer for Philippe Gilbert if you consider last year's season. This year, he hasn't been firing on all cylinders in the same dominant way that he had done, but maybe he's saving himself for later in the summer. He did have 1 stage win in last year's Tour de France. He was competitive throughout the rest of the Tour, but that was the one part of the season that he didn't absolutely dominate the proceedings. And today's stage, he's starting to find his legs. He was decent at the later classics, but now we'll see what he can do on today's stage. Philippe Gilbert, however, like you said, this would be a perfect finish for his talents.
We're looking here now at Anthony Roux. We're going to just try and show you just how difficult it is to ride across a gap, how you've got to use all of the road. You've got to take risks. You see how he moves across, cuts the apex of the corner. This is also a man, Bob, who is coming back from a very nasty accident, because he actually fractured 2 vertebrae during the winter in a cyclocross accident. Cyclocross, a discipline of the sport which a lot of riders use to retain their fitness during the winter months. He's got a long ride. As he's on the motorbike, you just pull the throttle back a fraction, you get across there, and even our motorbike taking a few risks getting around the corners. This kind of puts it into perspective of how fast you've got to go to get across a gap. He will be traveling at around about 35 miles an hour here to try and bridge to these 4 leaders.
Well, slicing your lone furrow through the stratosphere, trying to close a 30-second gap, and that's what Anthony Roux is trying to do. He has presumably saved his energy throughout the day compared to the breakaway, but it's never early. Watch this.
Oh, la. I tell you what, the pale blue jerseys at the back, Bob, it was like casting my mind back to Paris Paris-Nice there. That was Omega Pharma Quick-Step there, taking a bad line around the corner, almost taking out the whole of the team. Now, I wonder today if they're going to look after Gerard Ciolek. He sprinted well yesterday. Tony Martin, he's well up in the overall standings. But again, from that squad, probably Sylvain Chavanel.
Yeah, let's not forget Sylvain Chavanel. I was just going to say Steen Vandenberg was the man tripoding through that corner. You can see that the peloton is going absolutely flat out. The breakaway holding on to a slim margin. In between the two, Anthony Roux trying to get across to the front in a desperate fight for his life. He has to do something, either wait for the chasing peloton or make it across to the breakaway. That's very tough to do in this situation. Twists and turns, very technical race course, and they are absolutely Indian file. You know they're flying with 10 kilometers to go, excuse me, about 6 miles left.
Yeah, but Bob, what about a hats off for the cameraman here? Because the cameraman and the motorbike driver, they have to have a symbiotic relationship, a trust, because the cameraman's looking backwards. He does not know what kind of a corner he's going into, and he's got to hold that picture as steady as you like, and that's what gives us this impression of incredible speed. Look at that line down the whole of the main field. 6 miles to go and 18 seconds the advantage.
You make a very good point there. The cameramen, they need a straight stretch of road to get a little bit of advantage of the chasing peloton. It always amazes me how fast the peloton can cover ground. You can it's almost impossible to stay in front of them when you have the driver of the motorbike and the cameraman, like you said, facing backwards, but it does give us great images.
Yeah, but the other thing is as well, Bob, but these bikes, when you come to the technical corners, the tight corners, the bikes can actually get around the corner faster than motorbike.
Oftentimes that is the case. Here is our breakaway, Christophe Caron. You can see that the desperation now coming into the pedal of these riders. David Mouncoutier, he's won a couple of stages of the Tour de France in his career in very similar situations. A long all-day breakaway and then breaking away from his companions and going out for a stage win. Very clever bike racer, Mouncoutier, one of the most successful French cyclists from the previous generation. They have a lot of young riders around 20, 21, 22, 23 years of age, and a couple of KG veterans. Sandy Cassar is one, Mouncoutier, and of course Thomas Voeckler in the twilight of his career perhaps, but also Voeckler having some of the best days in his career currently.
Arrière du peloton. We'll have a bit of a French lesson here this afternoon. The back end of the main field. And peloton, by the way, comes from the French word peloter, which means to bring everything together. We brought together a bunch of bike riders here, but this is a very fast finish. 12 seconds. And, oh, here he comes now, Anthony Roux. He's almost across the gap. You know, he's done an incredible ride there, Bob, I have to say.
It may come to naught, but it's impressive just the same. Anthony Roux just about to make the juncture to the breakaway.
Yeah, but poor old Anthony Roux, Bob, because he's going to make the juncture to the 4 leaders who've been at the front of this bike race since the 25th mile of the race. And if he looks back over his shoulder, the main field are breathing down their necks. You know, they are going to catch these 5 riders, Bob, but just almost at the very start of the final climb of the day. Now, that makes it very complicated, but watch out. The nous of David Moncouquier. Sorry about the little bit of picture breakup there that happens with these digital signals which go up from the motorbike to the helicopter down to the finishing line. David Moncouquier, oh, there's the main field. They're all down to the shout now, Bob.
Moncouquier, a tiny little advantage, trying to sneak away from the front of this breakaway group. The peloton, 12 seconds is what's listed, but it's a lot less than that. They're hot on the heels of the breakaway.
Well, it's all over for the breakaway. No, it's not, because Anthony Roux in the white jersey there has decided he's made such a big effort to get across to this leading group that he wants to have another try, and he's going to be joined there by Bill Kadri. Looming on the horizon is the final climb of the day. Will these two survive? Welcome back to the Epic Cycle Series presented by Michelob Ultra. I'm Paul Sherman, alongside me Bob Roll. It is almost over for these two attackers, and lining up on the front in the pale blue jerseys, that's Omega Pharma Lotto. That is Anthony Roux just getting caught in the white jersey, and Bill Kadri. Nice, brave attack, but Bob, I reckon Omega Pharma Quick-Step are starting to line it up for Tony Martin.
2 cards to play for the Omega squad, the most successful team so far this year. Sylvain Chavanel, and a third wheel world time trialing champion currently, Tony Martin, an incredibly powerful rider. He won Paris-Nice last year. He's recovering from a big crash earlier this spring where he was taken out by an automobile, breaking his cheekbone.
Oh, well, this is Leonardo Duque. He's slipping backwards. He's the big sprinter for Team Communist. And again, another move coming off the front. This is Michael Scherel, a rider from Brittany, putting a little bit of a consternation onto the shoulders of the riders from Omega Pharma Quickstep. I was looking to see if I could see Sylvain Chavanel there. It's his kind of finish here this afternoon, Bob. And look for him because he'll be wearing the red, white and blue jersey as champion of France. And he's not very far behind the yellow jersey of Bradley Wiggins. 5 kilometers to go, 3 miles.
Scherel, great little attack there by Michael Scherel. His teammate has been out in the breakaway throughout the day, Biel Kadri. Now Scherel out on the attack there. BMC to the front of the peloton.
Well, I tell you what, I did not see Philippe Gilbert. I thought this was a Philippe Gilbert finish here this afternoon, but he was not there. 4th rider in that line in the pale green was Cadel Evans. It's a Cadel Evans type of finish here this afternoon, Bob. But look now, behind the BMC Racing guys, you've got the Team Sky riders, and there in the yellow jersey is Bradley Wiggins. You like Bradley Wiggins for the win today, don't you?
Well, he won a similar stage at the Tour of Romandy that he went out as the overall winner of that a little bit earlier this year. BMC, you know, when you have the morale after a stage win like they saw from Cadel Evans yesterday, also he's the defending Tour de France champion, it lifts your spirit. It gives your team so much extra power. And Team BMC on the front of the peloton chasing this man, Michael Scherel. He was 3rd earlier in the spring in a big stage race in Spain called the Volta a Catalunya. And on the 3rd stage, the Queen stage, won, by the way, by Yanni Brockovich, a former winner of the Dauphiné. That man on the front of the peloton was able to get 3rd on a very tough mountain stage in Spain earlier this year. He must be on good form.
Well, Cadel Evans is obviously looking to win here as well. Let's not forget, Bob, we've had 2 stages so far. Both times it's been an Australian winner. Is it going to be number 3 for Australia?
Well, the Aussies have come to the Dauphiné to rumble. Watch out for Simon Gerrans in the Finny.
There is the catch, and now it's all down for the shout here as we can see BMC Racing on the red and black jerseys on the front. Cadel Evans now moving up into 3rd place, Bob. We are about 1 mile away from the start of the final climb of the day. And what a climb it's going to be.
It should take less than 2 minutes to get to that last climb. The climb will take a little bit longer than that, but slightly downhill road here to the finish, to the start of the last climb.
Arrière du peloton, that is Andy Schleck. You might note him in the black, white and red jersey there. He's not taking this Dauphiné seriously, but Johan Bernil has said he feels that he will ride better and better. He hasn't actually raced since Liège-Bastogne-Liège, so he hasn't got an awful lot of competition in his legs. I think just sitting behind Cadel Evans, you might notice Vincenzo Nibali. Wiggins, for me, is sitting a little bit too far back, but look at this BMC Racing team. They have come here not to participate, Bob. They want to race.
Well, the Cadel Evans saying in the interview yesterday, I love to race. Every chance I get to win, I go for it. He most certainly did that yesterday. He's looking to go out the champion of the Dauphiné. He's got great form. A little bit questionable before the start of the Dauphiné whether Cadel would be in top form, but he answered that on yesterday's stage emphatically with a great stage win after dominating the finale, going off the front, doing all the work, and staying away and able to win the sprint against Kashakin in that particular stage.
Well, Andy Schleck and Alexander Vinokourov sitting at the back end of the main field. We'll have to see whether he can ride a bit better, but this is Big George. We like to call him Big George because he's a big, big man. He probably doesn't want me to remind him that next month he's going to be 39 years of age, but the power and the youth and enthusiasm is still there. Look at Evans in 2nd place. Behind him, Vincenzo Nibali, Tony Martin. This is a roll call of the top men of the main field. Tony Galopin is up there. He's the rider in the black and white jersey of Team Radio Shack, but they are all now starting to queue up on this climb.
1 mile to go. They are on the last climb of the day. Cadel Evans perfectly placed in 2nd position there. Nibali, Tony Martin also coming into the frame as well.
There are some very big names here, but George Hincapie is sacrificing himself, and look at the damage that this climb is doing at the back end of the peloton this afternoon.
Last climb of the day, just about a mile before the finish, 1.5 kilometers, and chaos at the back. In the front, big lead out by George Hincapie. Great to see the American veteran on the front of this stage.
Well, Lee Quiñagas now coming up for the acceleration. Hincapie, boom, has gone backwards. Not a surprise. He was right on the limit of his effort. But I have to say, Cadel Evans is doing a sterling ride here this afternoon. The pale blue jersey in 5th position. That is Tony Martin. They're all waiting now. When they see the red kite with 1,000 meters to go, Bob, there is still a long part of this climb left.
It's a tough little climb here. Cadel Evans, 2nd wheel, run out of teammates there. We'll see if it regroups a little bit, but it looks like Liquigas hungry for the stage win. 3 men in the first 4 positions.
Well, it looks like TJ Van Gardner in the red jersey a little bit further back here. He's another teammate of Cadel Evans, but Cadel Evans is riding as if he's leading this bike race here this afternoon. That Thomas Vogler over on the right-hand side of there. Recognise his style there as he gets out of the saddle and back in there. Could be a kind of finish for him here this afternoon. There's the Flamme Rouge. 1 kilometre left to go. It's going to take them about 2 minutes to cover on the slopes of this climb here this afternoon. I think they're trying to set the victory up here this afternoon, Liquigas, for Vincenzo Nibali.
And also Tony Martin looming ominously there at the front of the peloton. Movistar on the attack in the blue jerseys with the green helmets.
Well, you just saw that's TJ Van Garderen. There was a little word there from Cadel Evans. Go on, nail him back, pull this all back together here this afternoon. I think all of a sudden the man who was accused of not being an attacker has all of a sudden become a cannibal. He wants to win everything.
Cadel Evans third on the road there, on the wheel of his teammate TJ Van Garderen doing a big lead out. Very straightforward tactics here for BMC. Put the hammer down and get Cadel in position to win the stage.
Well, that's Jürgen van den Broek now in fourth position. You know, you want to win bike races, you can't do it alone. You have to have a team. You have to have teammates who will sacrifice themselves. TJ Van Garderen, third overall in the Dauphiné a couple of years ago. Oh, that hurt so much. He's just got nothing left at all. Now it's all up to Cadel Evans. Now that looks like Tony Martin coming through there. Big acceleration. Cadel has seen that and he's done waiting for somebody else to come. That is going to be Jürgen van den Broek, the Lotto rider, closing down the gap, and Tony Galopin is up there into third place. Evans now has to dig deep.
Evans digging deep. He's fourth man on the road there. Tony Martin, the big lead out there, sees the finish line and starts his sprint.
Well, he starts the sprint, but now it's Jürgen van den Broek taking over. And the move coming through from Katusha's Daniel Moreno in the red and white jersey. Now he's going a long, long way out, queuing up behind him. You've got Tony Galopin in second position there. There's the yellow jersey. That's Bradley Wiggins. In the middle, in the orange, is Luis Leon Sanchez. Daniel Moreno is going to get himself the victory here this afternoon. And I think Tony Galopin is third. Looking back, there are no time gaps. Little hand down there by Bradley Wiggins to say, thank you very much. I'm still in the lead of the bike race here this afternoon.
Saour, they did a lot of work at the end of the stage. That was to put Julien Simon. He wound up right there in the proceedings. However, nobody could be faster than Danny Moreno. A great sprint. He's won a couple of stages already this year in his career. One of the stalwarts of Spanish cycling. But Danny Moreno uncorked one. Absolutely perfect timing. Tony Martin attacked, Cadel Evans attacked, but it was Danny Moreno that waited until the perfect moment, and he was able to win the stage.
Now, once again, number 71, the leader of Radio Shack Nissan Trek is Andy Schleck is just sitting up and riding into the finish of these races. Bob, I mean, I've got to ask myself the question, is he going to be able to ride the Tour de France?
Well, presumably he'll be in the Tour de France this year. One has to wonder, though, and perhaps be a little bit worried about how well Andy Schleck is going to be able to do in the Tour de France. We're less than 3 weeks away from the Tour start, and to be riding this poorly it does not send the right messages to anybody concerned for Andy Schleck. It's a little bit disheartening. On yesterday's stage, he didn't even try after he got dropped. He just noodled in, lost over 3 minutes, and he hasn't improved on today's stage either.
Unless he's doing this on purpose, unless he knows his body better than anybody else. Because talking around one or two of the bike riders this morning, Bob, they said, don't worry about Andy Schleck. He's fine. He's getting himself ready. We will know that when we have the big mountainous races over the weekends. I think we forget about these early stages and see whether or not he can perform at high altitude. Col de la Colombière at the weekend, for example, but it doesn't send out a good message to the rest of the team, does it?
Most certainly does not. Morale is everything in professional cycling, and when you see your team leader left behind every day, not good news for your teammates.
It is not, but it's good news for this man on the front in the red and white, because Daniel Moreno got it absolutely spot on here this afternoon for his team, Team Katusha.
Team Katusha, a Russian squad, but they have a lot of fast Spaniards on that team. Danny Moreno, he won a couple of races this year already, including, like you said, the very tough Grand Prix Miguel Indurain. Now he has a stage of the Dauphiné to add to his list of wins. Great win by Danny Moreno, and clean wheels to the field. Perfect timing in this sprint.
It certainly was perfect timing, but just look at the yellow jersey there, Bob. I wonder whether or not Bradley Wiggins was actually trying to let a gap go there.
Well, Bradley Wiggins rather desperate to use his own skin suit in the time trial. It is 53 kilometers long. Maybe hoping to pass the jersey over to Cadel Evans. Time will tell.
Well, time will tell. I don't think there's any gap at all in the main field. Definitely the win going to Daniel Moreno ahead of Julien Simon, Tony Galopin, Ronaldo Nocentini up there. Jürgen van den Broek led the sprint out, faded a little bit to go. go down there into 5th place. Further down, look at these names. They're all at the front end of the main field. Luis Leon Sanchez, Cadel Evans, Bradley Wiggins in 9th place, Thomas Vogler in 10th. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll have the stage podiums and the yellow jersey podium and a quick chat with Bradley Wiggins and ask him about his day in yellow. Well, welcome back. I have to say, as we look out over the beautiful scenery of the Ardèche, that was a very, very well sprint there, Bob, by Daniel Moreno. And again, none of the big boys came out to show any weakness in their armour.
Danny Moreno, a great stage win here. He spent the whole Giro working for his teammate, Joaquin Rodriguez. Rodriguez eventually finished 2nd. They just got done with the Giro about 12 days ago, bringing some good form to the Dauphiné, doing the work for his teammate, now taking his own chance. Perfect timing. Great stage win by Danny Moreno from the Katusha squad.
It was a very difficult stage to judge if you were a man sprinting out of the gap, so our road ID ride of the day today has gone, in fact, to Daniel Moreno.
Clean wheels to the rest of the field. This is the way to win a sprint with no one else in the photograph. They might close the gap a little bit before the line, but Danny Moreno following through with the form he established in the Giro d'Italia, a solid stage win in the Dauphiné.
Yep, well, that's why he's been awarded today our road ID ride of the day. Now, the next thing we will look at is the podium, I have to say, and no change at the top of the leaderboard either, because still the British national champion is in yellow there, Bradley Wiggins.
Bradley Wiggins looked to be trying to give up the jersey, maybe by 1 or 2 seconds to Cadel Evans. However, he is the race leader. Another day in the yellow jersey. We've seen him in this yellow jersey for a number of days throughout the season so far.
Yeah, well, definitely. He leads this race, Bob, only by a single second. It's all going to be very, very important when we go down to the individual time trial of about 32 miles the day after tomorrow. Let's have a look at the overall standings, and still that 1 second gap between Bradley Wiggins and Cadel Evans. Carlos Barredo, birthday boy today, 31 in 4th place, just 2 seconds off. Tony Martin, dangerous for the time trial, 2 in 5th. Sylvain Chavanel still hovering there in 7th place. And, of course, Richie Port of Sky Pro Cycling moving up towards the top 10. A little bit further down, Bob, some of the notables.
TJ Van Garderen, a good ride, leading out Cadel Evans in the finale. He's 45th overall. Andy Schleck continues to lose time, 5:21 behind.
Well, right behind the podium position, we got a chance here to chat with Bradley Wiggins to see what he says.
Bradley, your day in yellow was pretty hectic out there on especially the first part, very fast roads. We saw you on a breaker. What went on?
Yeah, I mean everyone knew the race went straight uphill from the start, and our objective was just to make it hard from the start, and if people had legs to get away, then they could. But you know, once again, the Team Sky were incredible today, and they made my job a lot easier as well. And yeah, as you say, we went over the first climb, and Chavanel did the descent really fast, and he's a great descender, and I went with him and Nibali and a few others, and there was 8 or 10 of us away at the bottom, so it was a little bit strange, but it all came back together. And then obviously the break went, and it was a pretty straightforward day. It was a hard day, but it was a pretty straightforward day after that.
What's your concern? Because the legs are definitely working. What's your concern on a day like today? It's keeping the yellow jersey, keeping out of problem, focusing on Thursday?
A bit of everything, really, you know, just to defend the jersey out of respect of the race and the jersey. And, you know, staying safe, really, and getting through hectic finishes like that, because it wasn't simple, and just staying upright. And it's another day down and another day closer to that time trial, which is really going to make the difference in the GC and really see a clear GC. So, again, just staying safe. And the boys, as I said, did a fantastic job today.
Well, Bob, there, no talk about losing the jersey before the time trial.
Well, Wiggs saying he would like to hand the jersey over in order to ride his own aerodynamic skin suit in the time trial. But now he's changed his tune, wants to honor that jersey. His teammates most certainly committed to the task.
They certainly are. Don't forget, we'll be back tomorrow night with the Epic Cycle Series presented by Michelob Ultra as we continue on stage 3 of the Critérium du Dauphiné. Tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on the NBC Sport Network. Well, tomorrow's stage should be a little bit easier, if that's at all possible, at the Dauphiné for the bike ride.